In this lesson, we are going to rewrite, this time multiplication. And then we're going to provide evidence of equivalence. So remember, the whole point is to take an expression and kind of like change it a little bit, but still end up with an equivalent expression. We're just rewriting expressions. So if we look at this row right here, we have 5 times 2 times 1. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 times 1 is 10. Cool. Now I switched the order. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Cool. Good so far. Switch it again. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Nice. Let's switch it again. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Yeah, we have more. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 1 is 10. And lastly, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 5 is 10. So when we switch these orders, did it change the answer? No. So can I do it in any order? Yeah. Now, last time what messed up the addition and the subtraction were those negative signs, or those minus signs, really, you know? So let's see if it works. So a positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 3 is 6. A negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 1 is 6. Okay. A positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 1 is 2. A negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. So we're good so far. A negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 2 is 6. Negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 1 is 6. Good so far. Negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 1 is 3. And a positive times a positive, like you've done all your life, is just 6. Well, not all your life, but you know, since elementary at least. And a positive times a negative. A positive times a negative is a negative. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 2. Negative 3 times 2. So a negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 2 is... I think I did something wrong here. So 2 is positive, 3 is negative, 1 is negative. So 2 is positive, 3 is negative. Oh, I accidentally made this one positive. That needs to be negative. So I'm going to back up. That 1 needs to be negative. So a negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 2 is 6. Cool. So the 3 and the 1 are negative. I don't know what I did here. This should be negative 1 times 2 times negative 3. So a negative times a positive is a negative. And a negative times a negative is another positive. Positive 6. So the question is, can I switch these around? Like 2 times negative 3 times negative 1. If I change it to negative 3 times negative 1 times 2, is it okay? Will I get the same answer? The answer is yes. So let's rewrite some of these. Instead of 3 times 4 times negative 1, I could write 3 times negative 1 times 4, positive 4. I could have also just started with a negative 1. Negative 1 times, I'm just going to go backwards, times 4 times 3. That's good. And if you want, you can put this in parentheses too if you want, if it makes it easier for you to see. I could have also written it as, I don't know, start off with 4. 4 times positive 3 times negative 1. I'm going to put that in so it doesn't confuse anybody. Even if you end up with something more complicated like this, like 2 times 3 plus 1 times 5, you can write it as 2 times 5 times 3 plus 1. Or you could write it as 3 plus 1 times, I don't know, 2 times 5. Just remember that 3 plus 1 is together. So when I wrote it in front, I kept the parentheses around it. If I leave the parentheses out, then they look separate from one another, but they're together. And I could have also written, I guess, 5 times 3 plus 1 times 2. I like writing it with parentheses. I could have written it like that. And lastly, I have this 3 times parentheses 5 minus 1 close parentheses, and more parentheses, negative 4 plus 4. But I could have just, if I wanted to, I could start off with a negative 4 plus 4, and then multiplied by 3, and then multiplied by 5 minus 1, and I'll get the same answer. Let's start off with 5 minus 1 this time. And then times negative 4 plus 4. Remember parentheses because they're together. And then times 3. And then lastly, I could have written, I'll do 3 times negative 4 plus 4 times 5 minus 1. Okay, let's look at page 2. Oh man, here we go. So in this one, we're going to prove it, that we can make equivalent expressions. So 3 times 5 times negative 2. I could write that as 3 times negative 2 times 5. I could have written that as, let's start off with 5. 5 times, I don't know, negative 2 times 3. I could have also written it as negative 2 times 5 times 3. And these should give me all the same answer. So let's check it out. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. Positive times negative is a negative. So positive times negative is a negative 6. Negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Cool. Don't just write the same answer for all of them, because sometimes people make mistakes in the first one and they don't find it until later. Okay? So positive times negative is a negative. Negative 10 times 3. So a negative times positive is a negative 30. Cool. So it seems like I'm doing it right. A negative times positive is a negative. And a negative times positive, once again, is a negative 30. Cool. So 3 times 5 times negative 2. That expression. And the second expression, which is 3 times negative 2 times 5. And this third one, which is 5 times negative 2 times 3. And our last expression, which is negative 2 times 5 times 3. Yeah. They're all equivalent. They just look different. Looks like we got one more example. Okay. So 1 times 3 plus 4 times 5 minus 1. Ooh, that's going to be interesting to do the math on. Well, it's going to take some time. Shouldn't be too bad for y'all, though. So 1 times 3 plus 4. So I can write 1 times 5 minus 1 times 3 plus 4. It's not that it's going to take a long time. Let me take that back. It's just that it's going to require some writing, you know. So this next one is, we could do the 3 plus 4 first. And then the 5 minus 1 times 5 minus 1. And then times 1. And on the last one I could do 5 minus 1 first. Times 3 plus 4 times 1. So PEMDAS. Always do PEMDAS. So I need to do inside of parentheses first. So 7. But I'm going to do these ones next. So I might as well do it right here. And 5 minus 1 is 4. 1 times 7 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. 28. Let's hope I did that right. I will notice right away. Okay, so parentheses, inside parentheses first. So 5 minus 1 is 4. And 3 plus 4 is 7. Don't forget that, times 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. Okay, inside parentheses first. 3 plus 4 is 7. 5 minus 1 is 4. I'm trying to make that look more like a 7. I'm going to go back. I don't want the people that are just using the notes to get confused. Okay, so 7 times 4 is 28. And 28 times 1 is 28. And inside parentheses first, 5 minus 1 is 4. Start seeing a pattern by now. 3 plus 4 is 7. Or start seeing some, I guess, common links, right? 4 times 7 is 28. 28 times 1 is 28. So I'm going to write all these expressions, okay? 1 times 3 plus 4 times 5 minus 1. And 1 times 5 minus 1 times 3 plus 4. And my third one is 3 plus 4 times 5 minus 1 times 1. And my last one, which is 5 minus 1 times 3 plus 4 times 1. They are all equivalent. They just look different. And that is all. Thank you.